Hi everybody. This is the second part of our studio visits today. We're gonna meet up with Shea Vititow in a little bit. Let's see whether here we are. Here's Shea. How you doing? Let's invite her to join. She's there and she's joining us right now. And hey Shea, how you doing? Great to
Good,
see you
how are
here.
you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
I wonder if this is gonna
If
work.
anybody's wondering, my last name is pronounced Vititow.
Vititow.
It's
Thank
weird.
you. I
I
was about to
know.
ask you, Vititow, because it's a T-I-T that kind of like makes me stop and say it again, and I'm
Also,
not
your
used to
eyes
it.
scan over all the letters, and it gets confusing. You know, like the
I'm
TITI.
I'm
It's
also
all kind
like
of
dyslexic.
similar. But yeah, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I'm trying to see if I can pin you here, and then typing sideways is so weird. I don't know. Maybe that does it. I don't know. I'm learning about this kind of deal, and it's like fun, but it's also kind of complicated, and I don't know how
Yeah, it's
to do a
interesting.
lot of things. But it's fun. It's been really fun to be able to share a conversation with other people. But thank you for joining here.
The work in the back looks great.
Thanks a lot for asking. Yeah, that's I have
Yeah.
some work in progress right here. Painting I did collaboratively with Jocelyn Casas, who's here in Huntington Park.
Yes.
Sorry, and then that's something that I made for the cactus patch
Yeah, I remember that.
with
The
Hannah
colors
Pettis.
even together. Awesome.
They do
It's
look
all
pretty sweet. Is
together.
that green? And
Yeah.
then this is part of a collaboration I did with this guy named Gerardo Romero in Tijuana. So it's like a nice little kind of thing, trying to set it up so that we can show a little bit of everything here. But yeah, what else is going on with you, Shay?
Oh, I've been gardening a lot and it's like plenty of time for meditating and like, all the yoga routine stuff. But I also have a 9-year-old that I'm homeschooling. So,
Otis.
kind of like it's interesting teaching math and we're just like on our routine. It's not just me, but just like, getting it all, cohesive on a flow day to day and just keeping positive, keeping busy, keeping energetic, really. Just like keeping energy around in the body and like using it.
That's
So,
good. I think that's something that I see personified in your existence as a person is being able to absorb energy and transform that energy in different ways. I think since I've known you, that's been something that I've been very aware of in your kind of like being. And to that effect, how do we know each other?
I would, you know what? My first thought is like the artist run circle. I think I met you through like maybe the TSA LA kids and like running artist run spaces in Long Beach. I think I met you through Brittany and Chris, maybe. How do you
I
remember?
think if my memory serves, I knew you because of Grab Bag Studios.
Yeah.
When you were on 10th Street, I think that was the first time that we met. And I was always really impressed with the idea of Grab Bag Studios in Long Beach. It was on 10th Street, and it was you, Natalie Mink, Brittany Mojo, and Kelly. What's Kelly's last name?
Kelly Hamilton and
Kenny.
Stephanie Libinati. Yeah,
And so,
it was like a studio space. It's my studio space, and my old roommate Greg, he like moved out and started working out of his house, and I wanted to start using the space to not only like work but show other artists that I believed deserved an opportunity to show their work. We didn't always like it was kind of like at this cusp of like artist run spaces becoming tangible and a thing, and I saw you doing the same thing. You were so productive and so just doing a lot, dedicated to the community. I mean, you still do. We've been working in the community for so many years, and so I've seen you do all kinds of things.
Thanks. I think that that's really just like riffing off of everybody's energy and how much they bring to it. And I think to that effect, like it was really wonderful to be able to like meet at Grabback Studios, see what type of things that you do. Like not only was I like by the time that I met you, I was already a fan of your work.
Oh,
I had
that's nice
already
to
I had
say.
already seen some of your paintings, and I was like, oh man, like so cool. Because I think you had you showed in that space in downtown in Chinatown. That's like two floors, Lemon Space, I think it's called.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I saw a painting of yours there, and then it wasn't until later that I realized that the person and the art were the same.
That's very cool. Oh yeah.
So I was definitely a fan, and I was always really interested in a few things. Like I thought that the way that you used paint was really unconventional, right? Or in that sense, like you would mix it with different things, and you would use kind of piping techniques and different types of things in order to create layers. But then you would use taping techniques in order to create separation, in order to create physical depth. And I was always really intrigued by it. And you know, as an owner of one of your paintings, I look at it pretty frequently just to see how I can maybe like conceive ways of creating physical depth in the paintings.
Yeah.
Um, but to that effect, what are you? What's going on in your kind of studio practice at the moment?
Oh, I'm really exploring just the avenue of a painting being like a portal or like a mechanism for transformation. Many years ago, I was really, really inspired, not still am, but I'm going to give credit to Alison Skolnick, honestly,
Oh,
right? Alison
yeah, yeah.
Skolnick uses oil. And I was very much in my undergrad, like interested in the philosophy of like chunky, gestural, formal,
Sorry.
and new philosophy. And oh, sorry, did it glitch out?
You know what? It was on my end for whatever reason. My
Okay.
iPad's telling me that my memory's full, and it's just like, what do I do now?
Is it okay now though?
It should be. It
Okay.
should be.
I don't know. Did it skip over?
I think
But
you were talking about the philosophy, and then it like cut, and
oh,
then
okay. So you've got like chunky, gestural, the classical observational, like how the formal painting comes together with like brush marks and this energy and things like that. But then you have hard edge philosophy and like when painters started to tape or just get this really like hard edge, like the tangency between the two, and then color philosophy and things like that. And I digress. What was the question again, bro? Because I forgot about the
your
glitch.
studio practice. How has that? What
Oh
is that
yeah,
going?
yeah,
What's
yeah.
going on there?
Going back to like the portal, and I'm really like exploring how can I make this portal? How can I make like something that as a viewer stands in front of it, them looking at the work, like there's seeds inside of it for that will develop in the viewer, and so like I want it to happen with the material of paint. I want it to be something that they can like get into the paint, but also there'll be like a feeling, like the senses, like really like getting into the senses of like the human biology and then the neurology of like seeing the paint and things like that. So personally, right now, I'm just exploring, like I'm just researching. I'm researching data. I'm researching like physics and like weird math stuff, like Hypatia and like Alexandria and Egypt, and like these ancient mathematicians. And I just got back from Egypt, so A lot of weird math brain, a lot of weird
Let me
old
chime
like
in.
archaeology stuff. Yeah. But okay,
Let me chime in.
so portal, and then you've got a piece with the stickers. And then
Yes.
sometimes there used to be like this interwoven bands of like the piping and things like that. So going back to like Alison Skolnick, I was trying to make, this is like pre sculptural paintings being really, really popular. I was trying to make like the edges something, and then how can you make it build it up and things like that. And then attaching the stickers. The stickers are puffy, so you want to touch them, and then I was just looking up on eBay. I was collecting vintage puffy stickers, and so I have a whole collection of that. So I'm trying to like do like a database of them in like watercolor, like exactly. So that's a flat series, all the paintings that look like they're puffy stickers but they're actually flat, like watercolor or gouache. And then imagine like Alice falling through a rabbit hole, but then she's grabbing onto things. So there's like
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and so you have the five senses of the human biology. Other biology has different, like sharks have a sixth sense. There's all this cool like super science and things like that on Earth. But you have five senses, and it's interwoven. It's
Can you tell me what the five are?
Your reality. Your reality, or what you're experiencing, is a holographic illusion of your senses.
What are the five senses? Tell me what these five senses are, just so that I can
sight,
have more.
Smell, taste, touch, hearing.
Okay.
So we have the visual spectrum. The human biology gives you like the visual spectrum. But there's even other biology that sees a different spectrum, or can see an expanded spectrum. And then there's hearing. You can even look, I love researching this. I love researching like sensory deprivation. And like maybe people who are blind but that can hear, or people that are deaf that can, or just like in general.
I want to maybe add to that just a little bit. Like it might not fit, but it might, and that's memory. I think memory is one of those things that where like sensory kind of experiences happen. They always say that like olfactory system, like our olfactory system
super strong
allows us, like if you smell the same thing over, like you'll be able to make a like an emotional or you can flash back to a certain place or something like that. So I think memory is maybe one of those things that I would want to add to the types of human senses. But you also said something else, which I think is super important to my own practice, and that is this idea of portals and paintings and how they relate to. I remember when I was going to school, one of the things that made paintings so compelling was that paintings are a lie. Like this back here is an organization of color or pigment that is organized on the surface, and it's on the wall. And the wall, obviously I can see where the wall stops, but because there's paint organized, it creates this illusion of depth, which, psychologically allows me to like not feel so encapsulated to where I'm at. Mm-hmm. But one of the beautiful things about the type of work that you do, and one of the reasons why I resonated so much with it, is that you allow for that to be a constraint of painting, but also you make physical layers within the paintings that allow you to get close to the painting, and you get this sense that depth of field physically. And with Alison Skolnick, one of the things that I love is that not only are you seeing like a huge viscosity and an enormous amount of oil on the surface that's very big typically, but you also smell the oil drying, and you see like the different types of like you see where the oil is still very much rich and it hasn't dried, and it has all these different types of textural things that I think were always really interesting to me. Sorry. She did a music video with
The claymation.
Uh, yes, yes, with Grizzly Bear, and it's called like Ready Set Able. And I kid you not, I like look at that all the time because it like for two things. One, it feels like painting in movement. It
You know,
honors
she's a
this idea.
dancer. Did you know that
I
she
did,
studied classical ballet?
no, not at all,
I
but
think that
I
really
I could
like,
see it. I
yeah,
could see it.
the fourth dimension
Uh,
or like the movement in space, and then it comes in.
Absolutely. I mean, now that you say that, that definitely has a lot more resonance to it.
I could be
Um,
wrong, but I think that's,
I mean,
I think.
we're gonna have to get the cactus fact checkers. Mm, but I digress. So like portals. But with my work, one of the things I like to do is like to create these ruptures in space.
Oh
So
God,
they
yeah. It's
and
rip.
so like
They're like ripping.
exactly, right? Like when we look at a panorama, the sculpture is in between you and the visual spectrum that you're looking at, and then you have to negotiate with its existence. So it's kind of like a specter, like a physical specter, with no real kind of like one-to-one mention of what it is, but it's something that you're negotiating with, and you can walk around it, and has all these other kinds of things. But it's this idea of a portal in space because I was frustrated with the idea that a painting would have to retire on a wall.
Right,
But
like
so
hanging on a surface, like a flat surface, walking around a portal.
mhm,
Yeah, that's really
exactly,
interesting to me.
yeah.
That's really
Uh, but going back to your work though, could you maybe show us a little bit of what you're currently working on so we can see some of these like physical textures in your paintings and how they
okay.
may relate to Alison Skolnick?
Okay, I'm going to show you a grid painting. Well, first I'll show you, let's see, I think I have to this way. So here's a grid
Mm,
painting from afar. And then we're going to go up close and I'll show you these individual little blobs. And this is what you were talking about, the piping
yeah.
uh,
But you also
application.
marvelize those colors because like as you like bag the color, you have like more than one color. And so there's this
Yeah.
marvelizing that happens as it gets extruded onto the surface.
I kind of pride myself in like having used acrylic gel for over a decade. So like I really know it because it actually is opaque until like I mean it gets clear like this. It kind of takes like a couple months for it to really, really clarify. Look at this one that's still a little, see how it's like a little white?
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
cloudy, right?
translucent yet. Yeah.
Does
So
that mean that
here's
it's
a
like drying?
rainbow flame. And then let's see, I'll show you my super large flame. This is kind of like
Wow.
top secret, but I guess it's not anymore. So here's a picture of the smaller flame portal that I made, and then this was chained up, like hanging from the
Am I
ceiling.
look am I looking at it wrong?
This
Because
is a
so
printout
it's like
because it's
so is
actually in the
your camera
collection.
this way?
Yeah, this is how it is.
Okay, so if you turn it to the side so that I'm like there,
Oh,
I could.
yeah, that's true.
So now it's backwards.
I don't know.
There
Well,
we
I
are.
guess it could
The
go
other
either
way. Yeah, there
way.
we are. Yeah. Yeah, that
Okay.
works. Oh,
But
that
this
makes
is
more
in
sense.
the collection of O Project Space, so I don't have it with me.
Oh, Project Space is a
Yeah,
wonderful
bless them.
place.
Bless
Yeah, what is
Louise.
that? Sam Greenfield
Yeah,
and
Sam and Louise
Lois.
O'Donnell.
Yeah, both of them are wonderful people and really smart artists. I like that they've been using their window as an activation and continue to do projects. They're so wonderful.
They're brilliant. This is we're making the sausage here on a big flame portal. And it's the
Yeah.
blue ethereal flame. So whenever you really like practice um, in meditating, like Tibetan meditation and Kundalini yoga, you know, you meditate on this blue flame and this blue energy. So, yeah.
So
And it's
actually,
oil.
you just mentioned something that I should be asking you more specifically. Is like, because you have so many interests and they all kind of intertwine in your paintings. And I feel like your paintings are, or your art practice as a whole, reflects a lot of your interests. What types of things do you do personally to, inspire you in your creativity?
Well, like, are you asking about the yoga?
Yeah, and because it's not just like I think your research and like how much you've gone into yoga has also expanded exponentially in the last like since I've known you.
Well, I've been practicing for many years. I think I started when I was 19. And then I teach, I've taught every lineage. And my favorite, I guess I don't really have a favorite, but I like Kundalini because, I don't want to talk shit on any other lineage, but like Kundalini is like, used to be super top secret. So, it's really a privilege to be able to learn the ancient language and to learn like the really, really secretive meditations because there's thousands. But then I also love hot yoga, and I
I'm
garden.
pretty ignorant towards those kinds of things. Could you
There's
maybe
just different
illuminate some
lineages.
information?
What's that?
Could you illuminate a little bit more about that?
About the different types of yoga?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have like, this is really interesting to me if you think about like contemporary archaeology, because there's things that are accepted by contemporary archaeology, like in academia, and then there's things that there's a lot of archaeologists that are almost like the academy, like of painting, back in the day, they'd like either accept you or reject you if it went along with their timeline or if it, that type of a like political thing. So with archaeology, we've known about it for at least 12 years or something when we found Göbekli Tepe, but this pre-ice age like information, humans that were living pre-ice age. So then we had, which we couldn't really put together because we didn't know too much about them. And I know. Okay, so think about, religion didn't exist until a certain time. It was humans just practicing spirituality, and it was very secretive, and then when religion came on the planet, you had like a huge, and we're just barely getting out of this wave of like violence towards intelligence, like they didn't teach you reading, or like, back in the day, you wouldn't know reading, or you couldn't read if you didn't have money, or, that type of a thing. And like Hypatia was killed for being a female astrologer and mathematician. She was considered a witch, and they like ripped her apart and ripped her skin up and burned her alive by the Catholic Church. You have like a lot of like someone who knows information and then someone wants to shut you up type of a thing. So, where was I going with this? Oh, to the yoga. Okay, so, yoga wasn't always super popular like it is now. I remember seeing it on TV when I was a kid and being like, oh, there's no such thing as yoga in my little farm town, but I know I really want to try it when I'm older. And then like learning about it. And then it's kind of like martial arts. Like there's a philosophy to it, there's a systematic to it. And then you have like where it originated. So let's go back to that pre-ice age civilization. Where it originated is like where humans survived like the flood. So like Tibet,
Oh,
and that type of an area, and like up in like I think like Punjab, area, the where India used to be, up in like the Himalayas and stuff like that. So anyways, it was very political. This stuff was hidden. And now we're living in an age where it's not hidden anymore. It's actually all out in the open so much that you can get it at your fingertips, but so there's different yogas. There you got Vinyasa. That's one teacher who did like the push-up, sun salutation. And then you have Bikram yoga, but he actually just copywrote his teachers, his gurus yoga. So it's actually the Vishnu Ghosh lineage. So
Hmm.
that's two different lineages. And then you have Ashtanga, and then you have that's Iyengar. And then he even studied with Krishnamacharya that did the vinyasa. It was like his brother-in-law. And then you have the Kundalini, and that's like the Sikh lineage. So it comes from, and the Sikhs were persecuted and still are to this day. I mean, you were killed if you were like, the language is called Gurmukti, so it's not even Sanskrit, it's a secret language. So I translate Gurmukti. And this is like chanting. So go back to like sound current, totally in the paintings, by the way. Sound current technology, totally in the paintings with vibrational energy. And then, Egypt and all that stuff too. But like sound current, when you say something, they didn't teach you reading, or like, back in the day you wouldn't know reading, or you couldn't read if you didn't have money, or that type of a thing. And like Hypatia was killed for being a female astrologer and mathematician. She was considered a witch, and they like ripped her apart and ripped her skin up and burned her alive by the Catholic Church. You have like a lot of like someone who knows information and then someone wants to shut you up type of a thing. So where was I going with this? Oh, to the yoga. Okay, so yoga wasn't always super popular like it is now. I remember seeing it on TV when I was a kid and being like, oh, there's no such thing as yoga in my little farm town, but I know I really want to try it when I'm older. And then like learning about it. And then it's kind of like martial arts. Like there's a philosophy to it, there's a systematic to it. And then you have like where it originated. So let's go back to that pre-Ice Age civilization. Where it originated is like where humans survived like the flood. So like Tibet,
Oh.
in that type of an area, and like up in like I think like Punjab, area, the where India used to be, up in like the Himalayas and stuff like that. So anyways, is very political. This stuff was hidden, and now we're living in an age where it's not hidden anymore. It's actually all out in the open so much that you can get it at your fingertips. But so there's different yogas. There you got vinyasa. That's one teacher who did like the push-up, sun salutation. And then you have Bikram yoga, but he actually just copywrote his teachers, his gurus yoga. So it's actually the Vishnu Ghosh lineage.
Hmm.
So that's two different lineages. And then you have Ashtanga, and then you have that's Iyengar. And then he even studied with Krishnamacharya that did the vinyasa. It was like his brother-in-law. And then you have the Kundalini, and that's like the Sikh lineage. So it comes from, and the Sikhs were persecuted and still are to this day. I mean, you were killed if you were like, the language is called Gurmukti, so it's not even Sanskrit, it's a secret language. So I translate Gurmukti. And this is like chanting. So go back to like sound current, totally in the paintings, by the way. Sound current technology, totally in the paintings with vibrational energy. And then, Egypt and all that stuff too. But like sound current, when you say something, it literally transforms reality. So when you chant Gurmukti, you're literally tuning in to a timeless lineage and technology. So it's a portal. Every lineage is a portal. Every time you get on your mat is a portal. It's pretty cool. Like, and then it connects to painting and art. Every time you're with your work, you're a vessel for something coming through you. Like, we don't need, do we say that we're in charge, or are we more interested in like something else is happening through me? Well, I don't know, it's kind of cool.
Oh
uh,
man, that is such a wonderful thing to bring up when it comes to being an artist. And I know as a painter, when I was in my studio at school, and I was like, in, grad school is one of these things where it's like a pressure cooker, right? You're there for 2 years,
yeah,
and it's like just like a ton of pressure to make art. And so when I was going to grad school, like there just comes a point where like you stop listening to everything, all the noise, and the only thing that matters is like what you're making. And so I remember I was in the process of making these drawings, and they really didn't make any sense to anybody. They barely made any sense to me, but they brought joy to me. And I remember having a critique, and it was a extremely painful critique where I felt like everybody threw a dagger, and I caught it in my face. I saw like I was just like I was bleeding inside. Like emotionally, I was completely distraught by like the entire experience. But at that time, there was this visiting critic named Carol Dunham, and he's a wonderful painter. And he gets real close to my drawings, and he's like, "Are you making these drawings with intention, or are you doing these drawings on autopilot?" And because I was on like a stage, right, of this criticism, I wasn't really sure whether I should own up to this kind of like automatic kind of process of making. And I don't remember if I said anything, but I think I maybe hinted at the fact that they weren't automatic, right? That somehow like I had been rehearsing the shape or refining the design or something like that. But then the dialogue around this idea of like going into autopilot is something more attuned to that, where like you're like
yeah,
really excavating inside of yourself, your soul, your identity as a way to be able to create inflections that are true to who you are.
yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to have any meaning to anybody else. It just has to have meaning to you. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a flow. It's like a meditative flow. And there's tons of art and artists that even tap into like that the process is more important than the physical piece, you know, that
Yeah,
performance
yeah.
aspect of it.
I think about like Anna Cachadorian and her popcorn. Like she created this machine that would convert like popcorn pops into words. And so as the popcorn would pop, it would make these like poems
That's very
like from
cool.
it.
You know, I listened
Yeah,
to a podcast about, you know, it was just like this type of a vibe, like a quarantine conversation. And they were talking about, you know, Dada coming out of like the war and stuff. And they were like, it's totally going to be the next Dada. And that just like totally like reminded me. But you know
you know
what
what?
we've
It
got.
really is. It really is because it's like okay, like I was also really interested in Adorno and how there was this time period after World War II where he was like, if this is the end of art, you can't make any art after all the atrocities that have happened. And so, like, if you think about that in the context of like the Second World War and the amount
That
of people
question,
that
that
died,
idea. Yeah.
yeah. So like now we're under like a global pandemic where like the loss of life is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
So like I don't believe that we're at the end of art, but in fact, like I think we're just like at the onset of this new wave of making and thinking and a new humanity, to be honest.
Oh
Because
yeah, the cusp of total. I've just been like thinking, even this morning, thinking about this talk and like just like the layers of awareness, not just in art, but just in life, in every walking person on this planet experiencing this, and like the consciousness and all the layers of awareness. You know, we're all at home. We're all like either on a routine or not on a routine, and every choice and everything, it's just like layers of awareness, and either like it's like an upward spiral, you know.
I really appreciate hearing the birds. It kind of
Ah!
it brings this like outdoorsy kind of experience into this,
I've been
and
in
being
my
aware of
garden a
it.
lot.
That's good.
I've
What are
been
you growing in your
doing lots of
garden?
shoveling. What's that?
What are you growing in your garden?
Um, I'm putting in like I have a bunch of Japanese sweet potatoes, but I'm putting in a bunch more. I'm gonna put in some more corn. Um, I have beets growing. I have carrots growing. I have radishes that are ready to be harvested. I have like, you know, herbs like mint and rosemary and sage and stuff like that. Garlic, onions. Onions are tight because they have like really pretty flowers. And what was it? Oh, no, I said potatoes. What's the other one I was thinking of? I have an avocado tree. I thought my desert willow died, but it came back. Well, you know, I guess it just went dormant. There's all kinds of stuff, man. I'm into it.
That's
I
cool. It
like to
seems like you
see little
started it a
things
few months ago.
grow.
The
I like to
reward,
see
right?
when
The
they,
reward.
yeah. The smell of
Um,
soil.
oh yeah. Do you believe in like grounding yourself? So you take off your shoes and you touch earth and you allow that earth energy to come through your body.
Yeah, I'm down.
I'm with that too. Totally. It's been interesting because I've been watching my mom's plants, and so
Yeah.
it's been nice to see like when there's a new leaf and how it like it's wrapped and like how
Yeah.
slowly it starts to unwrap, and it's so satisfying and like it reminds you of like the glory of what it is to be alive, right? Because there's so always life and there's a continuum and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So do you see a relationship between your yoga practice and your paintings? And if so, how is it manifested?
Really like tapping into the process being more than the physical product because every day you wake up, you do your practice, you know, and maybe it's a shitty practice. Maybe you're not very good that day. Maybe you're like, we call it Walmart strolling. Maybe you're just like thinking about every aisle in the grocery store and what you have to buy. Like you're just like totally mental chatter, but you did it. You were there, you did it. Maybe sometimes you skip it, you know? It's just it's a seed in your life that other things happen through it. It's an energetic flow, you know? It's a technology to direct energy, not only through your body, through your biology, but your neuroscience. You know, you know, we were going back to that, the physical perception of reality and like the five senses and things like that. Well, you know, your hormones in your brain, your neuroscience, it can shift and it can change how you see things. So, you know, the yoga is literally, it's just like a technology. You turn it on and then things happen in your brain, like literally like clockwork. Like now we're studying it. We know to back it up what they knew, those pre-Ice Age civilizations. How did they know about it? This is like older than anything on the planet. You know, in college, I was really into Mohenjo-Daro civilization because they had yogis on their coins and they were like 10, 20,000 years old. Super, super
I don't know
old
anything about
civilization.
that.
Yeah. And
Mohini, Dara.
Mohenjo-Daro.
Where are they? Or what?
Mohenjo-Daro. It's in northern India.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's literally where yoga came from. And so we know that yoga is at least 10,000 years old. Yeah, so at least.
Do you think that some of the difficulty for you, like, oh, not difficulties, like, why do you think it took so long for there to be a bridge between science and yoga?
I think it's the cusp of consciousness on the planet. Like, if you really want to get into it, you've heard that song, like the Age of Aquarius. It's totally, that song is about Kundalini yoga. It's
Really?
about Kundalini yoga. It's inspired by Yogi Bhajan. But like when he came to America and he told everybody about the energy going up through the spine and then, you know, the pineal glands, pituitary glands. So you'd get killed. You would get killed for telling people about this information. And it's just now we're at the cusp of humanity where, you know, we're able to talk about it and not be threatened. So that's what I think. You
You know
know,
what? That's interesting.
and we're going towards it. You know, we're not there yet. It's funny because, you know, in those lineages they say like it's, you're supposed to practice it, but you're supposed to practice it so that people know about it 400 years from now, because the biology of the human body needs it for at least 400 years from now, for the amount of like stress and the way that the way that our lives are changing and things like that. We need to strengthen our nervous system in order to be able to take it on. Like, think about it like a computer running. You need to kind of like download this program, or like, you know, what do you call it when your app needs to be updated? Like, you need to like update your shit in order to be able to um, live through and survive like what's in the future generation. So our generation is just seeing it, but I believe in like future generations, it's going to be really common, it's going to be really needed, and they're going to know a lot more.
So let me ask you, Shay. Now that I'm looking at your painting in your corner, um, I started to see what you were describing, and seeing it, and like, oh, like maybe I can decipher the painting and like translate it into like binary, because I think I see like a binary kind of script going up and down,
Oh yeah,
and I
data
also,
data stream.
yeah, right. But and I think that's maybe implied just because of the order that you create using masking techniques. But also, like, I wanted to maybe ask you about how you feel push pull works in your paintings.
I like to use like negative space in contrast, but really, you know, things become very, very hyper, like, saturated. It's very otherworldly. Like, it's not super earthly.
Huh?
It's
Can
not too many
you
neutrals, you know?
could you show us that in your painting,
Yeah, I'll show
or
you
like examples of
neutrals
how
because
you
I
think
do
about that?
limited palettes. So I use limited palettes with fluorescence. So we've got neutrals in like the third or fourth layer.
Is that
See?
the white?
No, these.
Oh, okay.
Where are we at? Browns. Yeah, these are browns made with the fluorescence.
So you
So,
mix the brown with like a fluorescent pigment?
no, they're made with my palette of, this is my secrets. It's literally like, you've got this color in it, you've got this color in it, you know. So, I like
Huh.
to use color theory.
So you're using the residue of those paints to make other colors, and that's how the
I use the same actual bottles of paint.
okay. So then that maybe kind of explains, or like kind of considers the history of the painting as like a like how can I say it? It's like you're literally creating an excavated surface, right? Where like you see like the older surfaces and the newer surfaces still embrace things that are buried underneath it.
Oh yeah,
Is that
depth. Yeah, I want it to
okay?
be like woo, like vibrating, oscillation. You know, this total like oscillating, like background, foreground.
It's real rich. I really like how it does have that vibrating or the color vibration that happens, but also how that is enriched as you get closer and you start to see more of the texture pop up. That's really nice. About how many layers of tape do you use to create that like chunky border between paintings, or between paint?
How many layers I go? At least a dozen.
So
Yeah.
you tape one area 12 times?
Well, each color. each layer, and sometimes it's not the whole surface. Sometimes I just need to mask, like sometimes one stripe needs to be in one spot, you know. I really like I stand in front of it quite a bit to decipher like if I'm going to make the move or not. And then sometimes I do a practice move on the side and then like decide if it needs to go on there or not. But yeah, there's at least like a dozen layers on there. Even on my super flat ones that are like flat but thick, they are they're like 4 to 8 layers, the most minimal ones. There's one piece that Louise has at O Project Space that has 25 layers, and I like exacto bladed like the same design, shifted like 20 something times. So it looks like just a field of particles. But then if you start to really look at it, you see the repetition of like the shape. It's actually like a ode to Fibonacci with like roses. So if you want to go check it out, it's at her spot.
Nice. What's at the window? So it's in the window right now?
No, it's just like interpersonal collection. She's got
Oh,
like
okay, cool.
a really great like library and also like an archive of like paintings and work and just like I like it. It's cool.
I'm gonna have to ask her to join this conversation and maybe she'll show it
Yeah.
to
I nominate her.
us. Okay, so I have a question for you. Have you always been a painter, or did painting come into your life at a later point?
I didn't know that you could still be a painter in the world. I thought it was like something that was happened in history and like now people have to have jobs because I grew up in a small little town. But my grandmother was an artist, a painter, and she taught me how to do still lifes with oil paints when I was like 5. So I've been painting my whole life, and even in my small little farm town, like in elementary school and growing up, like everyone knew I liked art and I was really, really, really like serious about it. I've always had like a solid practice. Like my parents let me have like art out all the time. Like I always had something going, and especially in high school, I was really like making a lot of work, big work, and really like figurative, really yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think. It's kind of crazy to like look back and to see like, oh my God, like I was doing good when I was in high school. You know, I kind of need to get back on that. But I was just really like dedicated to my practice. I would do my homework. Like my boyfriend would like come over and hang out, and we'd watch like whatever, like play video games. Or he would like be there, and I was always working on this table on like whatever painting I had going on. So, and what's interesting is like working on the flame work. I I'm making shapes that I made in high school. And that was tripping me out yesterday. I was like, this is exactly what I did so long ago. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that too. I get that too. One of my studio mates, or my studio neighbors, his name is Christopherson. You know Christopherson, Sao
Yeah,
Paulo.
he's great. Him and his wife
And
are amazing. I love Mary too.
yeah, they're the best neighbors to have in a studio community for sure.
Yeah.
But him and his S, like that, like 6 lines, and then you connect it, and
Yes.
then you make it right. But it's
Sense
that,
for
it's like,
kids, you know?
and it's really wonderful because like not only do I connect it because I have a history to it, but it's always wonderful to see his connection to it because every time he he makes it, there's a new iteration or a new inflection to it, and I always find a lot of joy and freshness to this, like maybe like ancient kind of image that like I grew up seeing.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to ask you in regards to like how you were once a figurative painter that like was influenced by your grandmother, and now you make these abstract paintings. And when did that come into the fold for you?
Well, when I was actually studying observational painting and you know the traditional way of looking and seeing and painting what you see and mixing paint and you know putting it on under painting all the way up to the foreground and things like that. I would make really like like intelligent color choices, but sloshy, very like gestural brush marks. Like you could figure out what was going on, but it kind of looked like a pile of material. And I was really interested in like a collection of data, like a pile of material. And yeah, so little data bits swimming, like a still life, like a, or a field, or like a landscape. I still love to revisit all that stuff. And I still like, I don't know, I'm kind of like insecure about things becoming a little illustrative if I like to like draw figurative. But I think it goes back to like the Alice in Wonderland, like portal, and like holding on to things that are symbols or things in time or things in space, you know? But I love like you literally go into the meditative state even more when you're just looking and mixing the color, you know, like how would you make that blue? And then the science of paint.
Yeah, like when you talk about color theory, it's like, okay, so I'll deal with this chroma, right? The color, and then it's like, and then I'll have to create a hue. So I'll have to play with a white and a black in order to create a spectrum of color. Where do I want to lay with it? And then like you think about like, oh, well, am I using the right type of blue to start mixing with the white in order to get to the color that I'm looking at? You know, it's like, and
Yeah,
all
it's
of these kinds of.
physics too. It's literally like physics, you know, like the warm and the cool, and like the contrast, dark and light, and how you see. You squint a little bit and you don't see temperature or color, you just see black and white. And then neurology of like the brain, and then if you use the wrong blue, if you use a hot blue and it's supposed to be cold, well, you just fucked up the whole illusion of the space, you know, because it's supposed to be physics.
So do you do, like, I saw that you had some like paper studies for the patterns that you were working on. Is that
Oh
something
yeah,
that you do with your color as well?
I love it, you know. I love to like just put stuff down. I have so many ideas. Do you do this too? Like I have too many ideas, so I just have stacks of, like, I take printer paper or whatever paper and I gesso it, and it's archival. So then you can just do oil, you could do acrylic, you could do anything on it. So I just think it's important to just
Paper
yeah,
and
just like
gesso.
gesture all over dozens of paper. And then, you know, I've got like archives of like files and files of all these studies, and
I've been
the
playing around
shapes
with.
evolve and then they go back. You were talking about the flames and where did, you know, water drops, teardrops, blops to flames to, like, it's just like you could see through maybe like hundreds of pieces of paper.
I have been working on flames and that type of um, like jetting out, like
Yeah.
energy jetting out, right? Like because I think that the hard thing to conceive about flames is that it's energy that is being expelled,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so like this energy has a core, the core expands, and then that expanse is like where the energy jettisons. And so
Yeah.
like I've been thinking about that in this piece here, and sometimes it came out the way I wanted it, and other times it didn't come out the way I wanted it. But it's one of those things that like I could draw it, but then I also had to deal with like how do I deal with the carpentry part of it? How do I
Oh
make
yeah.
a cut? Like how is it that like I can do a drawing like this, and but when I have to cut it in order to make the sculpture or to make the physical thing happen, like I can't do that because my blade won't allow me. So then I'll have to make one cut, and then I'll do another cut, and then that'll let me go into this other thing, into another cut. And so it's it's real interesting to see how, for at least for me, right, in regards to like whether I rehearse things, it's like how it is that like a gesture feels when my hand does it, and then how it is that I can relive that gesture using carpentry tools in order to create that inflection. And sometimes it doesn't happen, so I have to allow for some. It's not even negotiation. It's like a listening to the material telling me what to do, and that was
Another
something that I
formula
had to
on
like.
top of it. It's just like
Yeah,
another
yeah,
formula layered on top of the gestural process.
Absolutely, because the materials are speaking to me in like a very non-traditional way.
Yeah.
I imagine that sometimes that happens to you too, right? Like I don't really know like a one-to-one kind of relationship, but I'm sure
I've
that the
had
materials.
failures through paint and through my material, absolutely. But it's like, you know, total like in my back pocket of like what works and what doesn't work with the material. And you know how I know that the color is going to come out. And sometimes you can do, like I was talking about, the 12 layers of paint, or 12 layer process at least. You could be on the last couple layers and you could totally screw up the color or the way it dries, you
Happens
know.
all the time. All
But
the
I
time.
like
I
to
hate
celebrate failures. I want to talk about that. How do you
I just bite
celebrate
my nails.
failure?
Celebrating failures. So just recognizing time, Shay. Like I really can't believe how fast this hour has gone.
Dang.
Like it's like, like I think we have like maybe like less than 10 minutes for this conversation before it terminates. But
That's
it has
cool.
been so fast, and we've talked about so much, and I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed like the spectrum of things that you've like added to this conversation. Um, because we're coming to this kind of like transition in this conversation, I wanted to ask you how what was your studio practice like before we went into quarantine because of COVID, and how is it that you're dealing with your studio practice now in quarantine?
I miss going to shows. I know that doesn't have to do with studio practice, but I miss going to shows and having face to face. But I'm a Taurus, so I'm pretty like, I'm reclusive, and so not. I am very blessed that not much has changed. I get the opportunity to get supplies if I need to, and I get the time to work at home if I need to, and I have been quite a bit and researching. So I'm lucky not much has changed. But I feel for the people like, Bendix building is completely closed. There's plenty of people that have their studios there. There's plenty of people that, aren't able to get into the buildings or just can't. So I feel for them. I'm lucky though. Like I said, like I've even ran out of gesso and been able to get more. So
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And I'm real glad that you've been able to grow through this hurdle and being able to adapt so that you can continue to make. I personally love seeing your stories and get real excited to see all the different things that you do, because I think it beyond like just like having like an active feed, you always have like really interesting points of view.
oh, thank
Like
you.
it's never just like, oh, we're doing this. It's like the camera is like in a strange angle to make things happen.
Thank
And
you.
and so like I think that that's definitely like one of the most positive things about following your feed is like checking out the different types of things that you want to illuminate. And I think that that also reflects like some of the curiosity in your being, because that having worked with you to make a freestanding painting for the cactus patch, I was really surprised by the things that were inspiring to you and how we translated that to the work that we did and how it turned out at the end. So
Yeah,
I definitely appreciated it.
thank you.
And I guess the last few minutes, is there anything that you'd like to maybe like add to the conversation, or there's some other things that you'd like to say to the audience?
Um, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing in there? I think a lot of people just started to get like either they're worried about being productive. They have anxiety about being productive, or maybe they have anxiety about sharing what they're doing. Or I'm just interested in like, what are people listening to? Like podcasts, what type of information is like coming in? So maybe people can share that with us once they watch,
Yeah, definitely.
like maybe we
Yeah,
can leave this conversation with like a question for our viewers.
I love that. I love that. So anybody who sees this in the next 24 hours, and maybe on YouTube after this, send us a message, send us a link to whatever it is that you're listening to, and
What's inspiring you?
yeah, let's have this be like a dialogue that continues, not just like
Can I give a
as
shout
you
out
watch
to
this.
a
Of course,
podcast? Okay.
yeah.
run by women, run by female, Material Girls podcast.
Material Girls,
I
nice.
think they're CalArts students or it's something like that. But yeah, they're pretty cool and they're LA based and they have like quite a few episodes. So check it out, binge it.
You just did a like a podcast like with Molly Shea, right?
Yeah, she's amazing too. Watch the COVID. She has a show.
Oh, it's a show. So not
and I did like she had me teach yoga on the show, so I was like a character. But it's phenomenal. She's a genius. So Molly Jo Shea, not me Shea. Molly Jo Shea. Yeah.
Molly is outstanding. She also went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and we have a lot of mutual friends. But last year in Berlin, we both had a show at the same time, and it was the best. Traveling with this woman and just like kicking the shit about life and having falafels, and you know, it was just good. So when I saw that you were on, it's a show, right? It's a YouTube show. What is it called?
COVID Theater. It's
COVID
like
Theater.
Pee-wee's Playhouse mixed with like the what is the theater? Oh, I'm blanking. It's like you'll just go watch it. Just go watch it.
COVID Theater.
COVID
and
Theater.
We'll put it on the Cactus link so everybody can check it out. COVID Theater. Okay. Shea, it's been wonderful to chat with you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to do this with you, to know you, to be able to work with you. I can't believe, you know, we live so close, and so that's a blessing too. Technology, we'd be able to keep in touch if you lived on the East Coast or whatever, but you know, we pretty much work in the same city, so that's a blessing. And keep up everything that you're doing, because you always give back to the community, and there's not very many people like that. You know, you're really a gem, so keep it up.
It's mutual. Cristal Rascon said that theheartradio.org is something that we should check out. So,
oh, cool.
Shout out to Cristal. Cristal is in Mexico City, also an outstanding artist.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate just being your friend too. And I look forward to, you know, life after all of this stuff and linking up. And please, you know, tell Otis that I hope that he's like b-boying.
He is a dance machine.
He is.
He's a dance machine. I had to move my kitchen table, my dining table, all the way over. My whole dining room is like, he looks in the reflection of like the window, the sliding door, and he's just dancing. But he's crazy because he can like do anything.
I loved it. I like, honestly, like the spring breaking with a purpose was maybe one of the highlights of like all the things that happened at Cactus Long Beach. It was so much fun, and our B-boy R2D2 just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep harnessing that little boy's wonderful creativity, and have a great day today.
You too. I'll talk to you later.
Bye, Shea.
Bye.